Hello there, everyone. I have no idea how to introduce this, so I will just get right into the action. Now, who are we debunking today? I'm sorry, that was mean. I should have found a better quality image for you guys. On a more serious note, this episode will be on a less serious note. After an entire 11-minute video discussing the philosophy of science and whatnot, I figured it's better just to kick back and make fun of a very easy theory, hypothesis, garbage, to make fun of. I will be responding to the experimental evidence article on the Flat Earth Wiki. And unlike the actual Wikipedia, which is 95% accurate but 5% fake, the Flat Earth Wiki is 95% fake and 5% fake but in a nicer color. I first want to examine these two experiments, the Bedford Canal, England experiment and the Bishop experiment, because in reality they are the same two experiments. Basically what happens is that in both experiments, a person takes a telescope and looks over a body of water, yes, that part is important, and sees something that, given the curvature of the Earth, should be hidden from their view. Checkmate globalists. That is a very hard word to say. Okay, before I get into the major problems that these two experiments share, I just want to go over some more minor problems in the article. Firstly, they claim that the English Mechanic was a scientific journal. It was not. It was actually a popular science magazine, only about 24 pages long. Anyone could send in anything, there was no scrutiny whatsoever, no peer review. To call this a scientific journal is laughable, and a blatant lie at worst, and just ignorant and not fact-checked at best. Okay, now back to the main issue. The issue with these two experiments is that they each have unaccounted variables that modify the end result of the test, the most notable being atmospheric conditions like humidity and temperature, both of which aid in the refraction of light, allowing the observer to see farther than is normally possible. And if you just read into the Bishop experiment a little bit, you'll see it plainly announced in the article itself it is because of these atmospheric conditions. If you read to just the second paragraph of the Bishop experiment, you'll see that it is only possible to see the other side of the beach on chilly days, meaning the air is colder, meaning greater light refraction. And in both experiments, the observer is supposed to get as close to the water as is possible, possibly less than 2 feet, meaning that the air the light is traveling through is more humid, meaning more refraction. Even if these experiments were valid, it wouldn't show that the Earth is flat. All it would show is that the Earth has a much larger circumference than we thought, meaning that would take the world a lot longer to become an obstruction to whatever you are viewing. It would still show a curvature. However, the Flat Earth Society would like you to believe that it's not the bulge of the Earth that obstructs objects as they get farther away, but in fact perspective. Now, I will not deny that objects can seem to blend in together as you get farther away from them. For an example of this, as you're walking down the street, look at a stop sign up ahead, or any sign really, and see how the letters and the background of the sign seem to become more differentiated as you get closer. However, if you were to look up to an object that has been lost from your sight through a telescope, you should be able to easily see if it was because something is obstructing it or because of perspective. As you can clearly see with this picture of a ship, it was because it was blocked by something. Now, some may fairly be wondering why I am now using a picture of a ship over water when I just said that water distorts light by refracting it. That is because in this scenario, we want to see what happens when we get an object far away and zoom back in on it through some means. The refraction of light would not really affect that. However, in tests where we want to see how far we can see, such as the previous two experiments, it would be a significant variable. Okay, on to the home stretch. Firstly, I'm not even going to cover points 2, 5, and 6 because they seem like larger projects I may cover another day, especially the 100 proofs the Earth is not a globe. Secondly, points 3 and 4 are also invalid because they fall trap to the same unaccounted for variables that the Bishop experiment and Bedford Canal experiment fall to. They actually reference the original Bedford Canal experiment. I'm surprised they didn't cite that in the main article and list the recreation in this further evidence page. And finally, just taking this point on its word that Kansas is flatter than a pancake, that does not mean that the world is flat. If you have to specify that a specific area of a place is flat, that probably means the area around it isn't flat either. Also, pancakes aren't perfectly flat. They have a bulge in the middle, so Yeah, that's another problem. Oh, one more point. Just because a specific area of a place has a certain quality, that does not mean the entire place has a certain quality. Just because you build an entire castle out of tiny pebbles does not mean that the castle itself is tiny. And that is it. That is literally all the experimental evidence, i.e. valid scientific evidence, that the Flat Earth Wiki has to offer. I know I skipped over like 3 books, but I will be going over them some other time, and I'm guessing it's probably going to have the same stuff that this wiki article had, so it's not too big a deal. Before I sign out, I want to remind you guys to look up my friend Tamara the Mollusk. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. She's a good friend of mine, and her channel will be in the description.